Here in this school, we teach knowledge and being, leading to understanding in relation to sleep and awakening, the development of a conscious soul. This is not a devotional school with the teacher and the pupils grouped around the teacher, in which the pupils are required to accept what is said as truth, a kind of faith, without verifying it for themselves. Devotional schools have been common in the East in the past. They usually require a withdrawal from life and a giving up of all one's possessions to study with a teacher. This is a scientific school designed for Western man, who needs to verify things for himself in order to understand. It also does not require a withdrawal from life and a giving up of one's possessions, career, family, etc. Again, there are no conditions here except one. Try to understand what you are doing. This is a scientific, esoteric Christian approach, suited especially for a Western man.
Schools are necessary to those people who already realize the inadequacy of knowledge collected by the ordinary mind and who feel that by themselves, with their own strength, they can neither resolve the problems which surround them nor find the right way. The object of school must be to help a few suitable men to create conscious souls. In order to understand why schools are necessary, it must be realized that the knowledge which comes from men of higher mind can be transmitted only to a very limited number of people simultaneously, and with the necessary observance of a whole series of definite conditions which must be well known to the instructor of the school, and without which knowledge cannot be transmitted correctly. The existence of these conditions and the impossibility of doing without them explains the necessity of an organization. The transmission of knowledge demands efforts both on the part of him who receives it and on the part of him who gives it. The organization facilitates these efforts or makes them possible. These conditions cannot come about by themselves. A school can only be organized according to a certain definite plan worked out and known long ago. The origins of our civilization lie in the schools of Egypt many thousands of years ago. For a time, the Hermetic mystery was the form of school teaching. Hermes, while wandering in a rocky and desolate place, gave himself over to meditation and prayer. Following the secret instruction of the school, he gradually freed his higher consciousness from the bondage of his bodily senses, and thus released his divine nature, which revealed to him the mysteries of the transcendental spheres. He beheld a figure, terrible and awe-inspiring. It was the great dragon, with wings stretching across the sky and light streaming in all directions from its body. The mysteries teach that the universal life was personified as a dragon. The great dragon called Hermes by name and asked him why he meditated upon the world mystery. Terrified by the spectacle, Hermes prostrated himself before the dragon, beseeching it to reveal its identity. The great creature answered that it was Poimandres, the mind of the universe, the creative intelligence, and the absolute emperor of all. Hermes besought Poimandres to disclose the nature of the universe and the constitution of God. The dragon acquiesced. The growth of knowledge means a transition from the particular to the general, from details to the whole, from the illusory to the real. Ordinary knowledge, or what is called knowledge, is always a knowledge of the details without a knowledge of the whole, a knowledge of the leaves, or the veins and serrations of the leaves, without a knowledge of the tree. Real knowledge not only shows a given detail, but the place, the function, and the meaning of this detail in the whole. In our ordinary knowledge, there are times which bring us near to real knowledge. For instance, in the ordinary system of notation, any number not only defines the power, but shows the place of this power in the series of powers from 0 to infinity. All real knowledge is of this nature.
Real knowledge comes from higher mind, that is, from the minds of men who have attained the fullest development possible for men. It is called objective knowledge, as distinct from knowledge of ordinary men, which is called subjective knowledge. Objective knowledge is always school knowledge, that is, knowledge acquired in a school. A man cannot arrive at it with his own mind or get it from books.
Objective knowledge shows that a knowledge of the real world is possible. One is able to approach this knowledge only if he is able to make use of the principles of relativity and scale. One must also already have knowledge of the fundamental laws of the universe, that is, the law of 3 and the law of 7. The approach of the study of objective knowledge begins with the study of an objective language. The next step is the study of oneself, which begins with the understanding of man's place in the universe and the study of the human machine. The knowledge of oneself is both an aim and a means. A man who has not had school teaching, that is, a man of a subjective way of thinking, lives surrounded by illusions, first of all about himself. He thinks that he has will and the possibility of choice every moment of his life. He thinks that he can do. He thinks that he has individuality, that is, something permanent and unchangeable. He thinks he has an I or ego, also permanent and unchangeable. He considers himself a conscious being and supposes that he is able to arrange life on earth by following the indications of reason and logic, or logical method. His usual state of consciousness in which he lives and acts, he calls clear consciousness, when in reality it is sleep. In this sleep he lives, writes books, invents theories, carries on wars, kills other sleeping people, and dies himself without even suspecting for a moment that he can awake. He does not realize the possibility of the development of higher consciousness. He ascribes to himself that which he does not possess, but he does not know how much it is that he could acquire. If he is a man of scientific views, he does not admit the possibility of any individual evolution of man beyond the limits of ordinary intellectual development during life. Instead, he acknowledges the possibility of the evolution of man as a species, and he considers such evolution to be entirely mechanical, that is, not dependent upon anybody's will. If he is a religious man, he believes in a future life and that he is guided for his own good by higher powers with whom he can communicate by means of prayer, and that there is no personal effort required on his part to acquire a conscious soul. Not so. It requires great effort.
The fourth way begins with the realization, I am asleep. This is not a poetical statement, although most will argue that they are in fact fully awake and alert, walking around and conducting business. This is an illusion. The fact that we are walking around and conducting business only shows that we have learned to do these things while asleep. Once in a great while, a person may wake up for a moment and notice the difference in their state. Often this occurs in a moment of great danger or stress, such as in an automobile accident, where time seems to slow down and we may see things in a different way. Occasionally, a person may experience deja vu, and ordinary things and events may seem to be filled with great meaning. In any case, the moment quickly passes and we are left with only the memory of a memory.
The state of being awake is man's birthright. However, it is not given to him, it is made available to him. In other words, he has all the necessary organs for it, but he must learn how to make a special effort in order to develop his birthright. In the event he makes enough of those special efforts, and does so for a long enough time, and does so deeply enough, then the state of being awake may come under his own will and control. First, he must find a man, a school, who already knows what these special efforts are and how and when to apply them. And then he must find other people who are already in the school who also are attempting to awaken, so that they can help him and he can help them. The school, the instructor, the fellow students, all are necessary. Ouspensky said, "I have been asked several times why nothing is said about sleep in the Gospels. It is spoken about in the Gospels on almost every page. This simply shows that people read the Gospels in sleep. So long as a man sleeps profoundly and is wholly immersed in dreams, he cannot even think about the fact that he is asleep. If he were to think that he was asleep, he would wake up." Each living thing has a soul. This is the life principle. This is what differentiates a man from a lump of flesh. The problem is that we are put here with an unconscious soul, and what we need is a conscious soul, one that is awake. This is the basis of all religions, how to develop a conscious soul. The Gospels are instructions in this, in a religious language. Throughout the Gospels it says, "Watch, do not sleep." The Gospels are general in telling man what to do. This school tells each man individually how to do each thing, step by step, over time. Each person is different, with different abilities and different problems, and has to be treated with individual instruction and at his own speed. If successful, this will allow the student to come into contact with his higher centers and allow him to fulfill his birthright, his true potential as a conscious being, to be a man in the full sense of the word.